Hey there, and welcome to Nerds Out of Water. This is our first episode of Season 3. It's our third season of doing this, and we're really looking forward to bringing you some new people to talk to and interesting facts to learn from, and interesting people to tell you a little bit about their challenges and their lives and their careers and in technology and out of technology. Today we're talking to a guy who you'd never see in a suit and tie carrying a briefcase. He's from the sunny coast. He's a nerd-whispering CEO, and he's got no time for the business pretense of a modern corporate. Since founding his first tech company at the age of 23, he's been addicted to the challenge of having big ideas and executing them successfully, and he's having a lot of fun doing it. Today you'll find him leading the work of software development company Full Stack Labs, whose clients have included OC Energy, Woolworths, and Apex Investing. He laughs a lot, he surfs, he's an unconventional tech enthusiast, and he only ever brings the brightest ideas to market. We're talking today to Daniel Filmer from Full Stack Labs and Move Up Internet. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to Nerds Out of Water. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and how your journey has taken you here today?
Sure. Look, I've had probably a bit of a different journey to most founders, as far as I started my first tech company nearly 20 years ago, I'd say, and so early to mid 20s, and I at the time a very short period of time I married my high school sweetheart. Not long after started the business, not long after that started having kids, and so I kind of did a lot of things in a short period of time, which most sane founders don't do. So I didn't really follow the full script or the modern day script for starting tech companies and what it took, and worked a hell of a lot of hours in between all of that. But yeah, that pretty much has taken up the last 18 to 20 years of life. You know, and now I live on the sunny coast, which is a great place to live, and got 3 kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
And relaxed.
Well, I've just read through your LinkedIn profile, and I feel like I should be wearing a tie and a briefcase, because on your LinkedIn profile it states you don't wear bow ties, you don't have time for this, you want to have time to actually do the work, and then time to have some fun surfboarding. Is that what you do?
Yeah, look, I do surf, and I wish I did a lot more of it. But yeah, funny enough, I think a lot of that came from back when I started my first tech company. I had no clue of what I was doing. I probably still don't, actually. So the last 20 years have been...
We're all in that.
Yeah, exactly. I put it persistent trial and error. But starting being early to mid 20s, I tried to follow what I thought the script was of starting a business. So tried to be really corporate. And funny story, I tell a lot of my friends still, but my wife and I, we were renting a place, and we set up the garage as the office, and we lived upstairs. Had a little baby after not long, and we had a couple of staff in downstairs, and I would every day get up and I'd put on a suit. It was back in early 2000, so pink shirt, pink tie, look flash, walk downstairs, come and sit in the office, in the garage with a couple of other people, and thought that, that's what having a business was. I had to sort of have a certain, a certain look to negate my age and win over clients and do all these kind of things. And after a while, I think that was, I just realised, I knew it wasn't me, but I realised I just had to be me. And now I think, the tech industry is pretty... it has embraced that style of thing a lot, and just it's a lot more casual and, very different. Doesn't have to take on the corporate side.
And I think the world as a whole, especially over the last 2 years, has changed to benefit us who don't like wearing suits and ties
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how many businesses are you actually involved in now? You've got such a wealth of experience from what I can read.
Yeah, look, I've got a few businesses that I'm involved with. Over the years, I think I've sort of started around 8 startups and been involved in a couple of others. Not all of them successful, unfortunately. Still hurts me, the ones that I didn't do so well. And you're always looking back on things and go, yeah, could have done this, should have done that. So I don't like losing at things, but there's definitely been a ton of losses, a ton of learning. But look, I think that's something that the tech industry in general has done so well, and a lot of the guys that have come through as brilliant mentors and people, they've really built out this thing of, fail cheaply, fail fast, and all of these other sort of, there's a lot of catchphrases that go along with it. But the main thing is embracing failure. And early on, look, when I started, there didn't feel like there was much of a startup, I guess, ecosystem or environment, especially not in Brisbane. Guys like Steve Baxter and that have done an amazing job over the years in fostering a lot of that, and Stu Glynn and even, a lot of other people. I think I set out to try and build an empire, and I thought it was going to be a forever business and a generational one, and, you learn as you go. And so in doing some of the other ones that have failed, I've probably done some of my best learning in, and still am, to be honest. I still, all the time, I try and really look at analytically decisions that I make and go back and try and say, look, I don't want to repeat these into the future, so what can I do better, and how can I learn?
I agree with that, because if you stop learning, and I look at the business I'm in, and from a cybersecurity point of view, if you stop learning, one day it ends up a year behind.
Yeah.
Any of those businesses that you have stand out in your mind and you think, I love doing that little bit. I love that business. Is there one of those?
Yeah, actually, the one that we've just started now. It's back in the telco space. So where I started, I cut my teeth. I launched the first business in telco, and this is probably I got out of it for quite a few years, and this is probably the evolution of that. So I really enjoy a space that I kind of know well. What we're doing with Move Up Internet, it's basically a telecommunications carrier, but we've always honed in on niches. So we've honed in on niche in residential multi-tenant buildings that have been developed over the years. They're not left off the NBN, but they're not serviced well. The infrastructure, a lot of the environmental factors with them essentially mean that they will never be able to really access great internet speeds and services. And so we've come up with the solution to bring gigabit to all of those, and we're coming in to do it far cheaper, half the price of what people are seeing on NBN. And just, I feel like that space is one that I just am comfortable in and I know well. Probably the other one that comes to mind is I started a business in sort of late, I'm going to say about 2009. So smartphones were really early on, and we created originally an SMS technology, and it morphed into an app for ordering and paying for your coffees before you get there. And we call it Text to Coffee. And it got a lot of traction. We had a lot of fun, but it was all the that was probably the best learning experience that I had on timing. And I always thought that everything about building businesses was, originally capital, then it was about, okay, it's just the team. And I kind of learned how critical sometimes you can have all the factors, but if you don't have the timing, that's also one that I look back on a lot and go, I wish I did this differently. I wish I kind of parked it and waited for the early adopter side. We had a lot of fun breaking new ground, doing new things, connecting with in an industry like coffee, which is dear to my heart now. It was good.
Yeah, to most of our hearts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it keeps us going.
Yeah.
With Move Up, I mean, that's also partly about convenience as well for the people who are living in that building. The getting a an internet connection, especially, NBN these days, requires a lot of work, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the process, especially if it's a new connection, it gets lost in the ether of whoever's the supplier. And unfortunately, a lot of the NBN resellers out there, you're always coming back and reliant on NBN as the incumbent. So, with us being a startup, we can innovate a lot more. We can focus on all of the pain points that we know that busy professionals that tend to be a lot of our demographic that live in these buildings, they want it. They want a great service. They want it quickly, and so we can sort of service their needs and just provide a really. What we've done is we've done a bit different. A lot of the resellers out there and other carriers, they have multiple plans and things. So what we're doing, and we've got our first couple of dozen buildings going in next month, and so we're on really ramp up phase. And I think we've got sitting on our books on our sales pipeline at the moment a bit over 500 to deliver 500 buildings to deliver over the next 24 months if we hit all of our targets. So it'll be a challenging couple of years, but fun. But look, a lot of it is we're going in just with one plan. So what we've done is decided, look, up to gigabit, we will, $79. That's it. There's sort of not having to really think about what your usage is. It's unlimited, and we've made it pretty, a compelling proposition for occupants.
Do you want to be connected to the internet? Yes.
That's it. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any major influences? I mean, you mentioned Steve Baxter before. Is there any influences in the tech industry or in the business world that have particularly, made you who you are today?
Yeah, look, probably influences as far as starting out, I probably credit my dad. I never really realised that he owned some businesses when I was really young, and we grew up. They were immigrants to Australia. We lived out in a small country town in western New South Wales called Burke. So hugely remote, and I would, as a 4 or 5 year old, ride my bike down to his office and sit under his desk. And I think a lot of those really good memories as a kid, some way, sort of in the back of my mind and the psyche, put in there this whole, building businesses. Although in saying that, I only ever thought I was going to have a career in sport, and from a young kid, that's all I pursued. I thought I'd be a professional sportsman. That was it, until I, never made it. So, and then ended up sort of feeling like falling out of uni and falling into business. But I think deep down he was a big influence. And then I would credit probably Steve as being one of the earliest. We had a lot to do. We got to know each other in the telco days, and since then have been connected probably for the last 15 years. And I've just seen a lot of what he's done especially for the Brisbane startup scene and things like that. So guys like that have been really a big inspiration to me, I think, over the years.
Yeah, I know he's got really involved into the innovation hubs and things like that that have really jump-started some of the startups that have come out of Brisbane recently. So, yeah, it's great.
Have you found anything? Oh, sorry, go on, Michael.
Oh, I have to cut that. I was going to say, in terms of your dad, having a business from it, or, you were involved in that from an early age, do you think that could have pushed you in a different direction if you'd let it? Maybe go down sports or something like that? Yeah,
look, I think it could have. It probably should have. In really terrible circumstances, he lost his business, and we, I think, I saw the difficulties that caused to our family and trust that was broken. The whole gamut of sort of went on in that, and so in some ways it probably should have steered me against it. But really, I always I think it's just something that's in you. I genuinely went until I was probably 17, 18. I just was pursuing sport, and I would really I took it quite seriously, and then just didn't make it at the end, and had to. Was pretty lost for a few years. But when I look back now, I was 16 and I was self-appointed marketing manager for a friend of my dad's company in a obscure industry in a like organic fertilizing, and I would take myself off and to vineyards, to wineries, and knock on their cellar door and sell them things. And so I always thought that was actually just quite normal or whatever. And now I look back and go, I was pretty young that I was doing those kind of things. And so I realised it was just somewhere in it. It was I was just sort of meant to do it. Although I wish I'd done it a hell of a lot better over the years. I made a lot of mistakes in the process of doing it, and a lot of learning as I went as well.
There is a lot of really, really good outcomes coming from naivety, I think.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true.
But any of those learnings directly out of your dad, is there one that grabs you from that whole story? Because, there are so many businesses over the last 2 years that have gone under, and we've had many people on here who have spoken about good businesses and bad businesses. Is there something that you took out of that and that's really sparked you to go forward and take that on? All those businesses you've now looked at?
Yeah, I would say... Look, with him, he trusted a good friend of his getting involved with the business, and obviously in hindsight it wasn't a great move. I think in a lot of that I've made sure that I've stayed very involved in every area. Now, in some of that I've had to learn over the years to equip employees and give them the freedom to run with things, and not, early on I was probably a real micromanager, way too much so. And then I've had times where I've gone completely 180 degrees the wrong way, where I've just gone, everyone, you kind of run your own, go for it. And then I've made a lot of mistakes that way as well. But for the most part, really keeping my eye on the business. I've probably in the startup world, and I've done a lot of everything. A lot of what I've done with my own money, rather than a lot of other successful entrepreneurs that have raised millions and millions and done a lot of different things. We have been through capital raise processes before, but for the most part, when it is your own, you treat the financial side of the business, and what it's made me even do with investors is treat it cautiously with investors as well. Look at it as if it is mine, not just. And so, I probably that side always been fairly conservative and made sure that I haven't just sort of trusted anyone with on a financial level, but a growth level and everything else, and keep involvement across the business, I guess.
Yeah, I think you have to really look at let people with the micro capability and let them sort it out. And while you're overseeing, you keep an eye out right across the board at that management level.
Absolutely.
And speaking of keeping things across the board at the corporate level, you've ditched the suit and tie,
yep,
like we spoke about. Do you find any negatives to that?
I don't think so. I tell you what, on that side, I think it's what I learned is you've just got to learn who you are and be yourself. I think that's what's more important. If you're by nature more a corporate type person and you're comfortable in, more formal, and that gives you confidence and that allows you to go out there and win opportunities, and that's all power to you. I think that's fantastic. That you've got to sort of be you. And I think for me, I realised I was trying to follow the textbook, how to build a business for dummies, and it said that in 2002, kind of this is what you have to do. And so I tried to be that, and it wasn't exactly me. And so over time, being more of who I am, I'm pretty I'm not very serious very often, so I use humour and I use just, a lot of that is probably one of my things of building rapport with customers. And so I over time, and as you get older and you learn yourself, you kind of start to learn to play to your strengths rather than try and be like the next person who's really successful. And I think that's one of the things that I say. I sort of meet up for coffee with different founders that I'm going and try and share with them a fair bit of mistakes that I've made and just hear what they're doing and give them a different insight. And one of the best things that I sort of say is you've really got to just find who you are, and don't try and mimic what the next really successful person, there isn't another, Mike Cannon-Brookes or anyone. They're everyone's unique, and just find who you are.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think a lot of the business these days is done, at the bar or at the golf course, or in the bar after the golf course.
Yep.
Or maybe when you're surfing as well. I know there's a lot of people, especially down here on the Gold Coast, that they'll meet up after they've been surfing for a coffee and have a chat about things. And it's I think that the way that we operate now is so different to how we operated back in 2000s. And for me, it's certainly better. And I think being yourself is a really important is a really important thing, because, like you said, you're confident when you're yourself.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that we've gone from 1960s and 70s, where there were a lot of golf course handshakes, gone into the corporate atmosphere, and it had to be in the boardroom, it had to be under a contract. And now we're talking again about doing it on a surfboard. We're talking about doing it at the coffee shop. Really interesting how we've gone the whole full circle around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well in the tech, the sort of the tech world, something that I really saw and got introduced to through spending a bit of time back and forth in Silicon Valley, and I used to be very much like it in the early days, was really, I felt like everyone was out to steal my customer and take my idea, and put so much value in all of those kind of things, that my idea was either so unique or so different or so this. And then you spend a bit of time in the valley, and you realise that everyone's had that idea, and 5 people are working on it, or maybe 500 people, and it's a big enough. There's a big enough user base and population to sustain multiple companies doing the same thing. And I think over time I became less fixated on the smoke and mirrors in building a business, and trying to sort of hide too much and hide behind, confidentiality and all of those things, or confidentiality agreements, and be a little bit more that you can go and meet with a competitor. You can go and have coffee with a competitor, and sometimes they might need a favor, and you can actually work with them, and vice versa. It comes back to you, because even in Australia, with a small population and everything else, there's still more. There's enough to go around, and if you're more focused on what you're doing, you'll build a good business anyway. And I think I've learned, a lot of that goes hand in hand with that, how, like you say, how we actually go and meet with, how we land deals, how we build relationships with customers, or, other business people in a coffee shop. I think in the tech world, it's come out of that a lot from the US too.
Yeah, agree.
Have you seen much of a difference between doing the deals over in the US and doing the deals over here?
I would say yes, in the fact that I haven't done a huge. I haven't done a huge amount of deals over there, but I think the way that a lot of that has come out of the way you relate. Like, I've been to dinners and lunches with multiple competitors, all at the same table, all sharing information, all actually, not concerned about someone winning, something. I think that I probably early on was a bit of a. Someone has to win, someone has to lose, and I better be the one that wins. Because you're so passionate about what you're trying to build, and seeing over there that they actually, are happy to see other companies going well, and they look at it like, well, if they're going well and I'm doing what I'm doing, well, I'm probably going to go well at the same time. Over the years, that has opened my eyes to the way they do business there. And I've tried to probably bring more of that into just the way I relate to other startup founders, other competitors and things like that. When I know someone is in the same field and they're trying to do the same thing, not being hesitant about going and introducing myself and having a chat to them, and,
Yeah, how did you get around that problem, or what are you doing what are you doing in this space? Because we're really interested in thinking about that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah,
And-
it's exciting.
And admitting like the things that we're not doing well and the challenges that you have, because, you know, sometimes they will offer up something and go, you know what, we solved this through this. And you go, oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. You know, so,
Exactly.
I think that...
You still got to do the work to get it
Yeah.
over the line, but, you know, it's not, it sort of saves you both some of that angst of having to discover it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find that openness leads people to misunderstand you at all?
Oh, look, I think people, staff, probably my kids' friends, I get misunderstood a lot. Probably I've got quite a dry sense of humour, and then I'm not often serious, and then when I am serious, I call it as I see it. So half the time, especially my kids' friends, don't know if I'm absolutely, you know, busting their chops or, you know, so...
Or just taking it out.
I get a little bit. I get that a fair bit across the board. In I use humour a lot, and people aren't sure exactly what's coming.
Yeah. David's got 7 kids, probably...
Ouch.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, a
Look at Daniel's
amount
face.
of huge amount of different age groups as well. So it's kind of you know,
7 kids, 1 grandchild,
Wow.
3 are still living at home, pair of twins.
I'm just seeing dollars here right now.
That's funny because I don't get to see the dollars.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, I'm the same. I tend to use humor as well, but it's difficult. Most of our team is you know, either in Vietnam or here, and my humor is very British, dry, dark sometimes, and it doesn't translate very well.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I've got to be on you know, on a certain level. I've got to be quite blunt and upfront.
Yep.
We're getting towards the end. We normally have a few questions we ask, but before we go into that, do you have a favorite piece of technology that you absolutely couldn't live without, or you've just discovered and it's like the most amazing thing ever?
Oh, look, that's going to be so boring. It's pretty much my iPhone, and that is only because it allows me the freedom to almost be able to just, you know, I spend a ridiculous amount of time on phone calls every day. I think I average something like 4 hours of talk time, maybe even a bit more than that. So my youngest son goes to school down in Brisbane when we live up on the Sunshine Coast. So I drive him down and back every day, and I spend all the time in between that either talking to clients or having meetings on the phone. So just the freedom that I get without having to be tied to a computer screen. But it's a boring one, I know.
And meanwhile, your son's picking up all of the buzzwords.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll be able to do the sales meetings too.
100%. He knows more than me technically, so I just turn to him for advice while I'm trying to, you know, solve problems.
Yeah, most of my work is done in Australia, but between Perth, Canberra, and Brisbane. So I get all the time differences there. And then we have all of the external places around the world, overseas areas, and we've got 150 spots where we're dealing with. So we could be on the phone every day, every night.
Yep.
My kids just listen to me in the car and just turn off. They got so bored of to start with, it was, wow, cool, that's interesting. But no, it's, here we go again.
Yep, I hear
Same
you.
conversation, different person. Daniel, would you do anything differently if you had a chance?
Look, I would. I do lots of things differently. I don't know if there's enough time to be able to run through all of them. I think the main thing that comes to mind is it's probably a little bit my ADD. I think first few businesses. I should have stayed a lot more focused before and got bigger and set up certain structures before I decided to diversify and jump into other things. And I tended to believe that we were going at a pace and a rate that didn't need me anymore, and I could jump out. And really it's because something else was a big opportunity and seemed really exciting, and I could get in, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the side of leading and building a new team and building a new opportunity. But, you know, startups, businesses in general, they need a leader, and they need someone that is highly focused, that understands the strategy and can clearly communicate that. And what we're talking about, oversight and a number of things. So I think that at times impacted and set different businesses back that were on a real roll and had real momentum. And then I'd have to sort of circle back and try and... So I really learnt that a lot, and I have to restrain myself at times from going off and having a new idea or seeing something.
Starting the next thing.
Yeah, exactly, and chasing after it. My wife shakes her head and goes, "Oh my God," you know. Yeah. So
the old shiny star problem.
Yeah,
look at
that, exactly. That's it. So I think that's something that comes to mind that I'm really I think I have changed over the years in.
Yeah, nice.
So if you weren't doing what you're doing now with your fingers in so many different pies, this is going to be an interesting one. What would you be doing?
I'd be surfing a lot more and be a lot better at it. Look, I think what I would be doing, I'd probably move more into the VC world, and I think that's something that I will in the future. Mm-hmm. I think it's a niche that I've got to scratch at some point, and I really enjoy the building relationship with. It doesn't have to be even tech founders. In actual fact, I just tend to enjoy business across the board, and I have different ideas and different things, and I meet with different people, and it's not that I know it all, even not even close, but I like looking at different things and pulling them apart and just looking at them a different way. So I think the VC side, in getting to build relationships with founders of businesses and being able to go through the whole process with them, and I'd love to learn a lot about, you know, the other side of the due diligence process. You know, having sat on one side of the table a few times. So I think that I'd probably be there, and I think hopefully in the future I will move down that path.
Yeah. Pulling things apart. I think it was about 1974 when I pulled an 8-track apart and gave myself an electric shock. It never got put together again.
Yep.
Yeah, and when it does, there's always a couple of screws missing, or, you know, there's something left on the bench that you're going,
thank God that happens to you as well, actually. Jeez,
Yeah, but pulling businesses apart is the same, I think. And, you know, I've been through a few changes as an employee and also as a business owner, and it's like every time you pull something apart, you're trying to put things back together in order again, and you're going, okay, I don't think that fits, but I think that's always a good thing because you can just throw that out, and it's not really supposed to be there anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
Last question: do you have any predictions for the future of technology? Because I think we're entering a new phase of technology, and I'd really like to get your take on what you think is going to be the next crazy thing.
Yeah, look, I think I'm probably not the best person to ask these questions. Obviously AI and machine learning, they're still buzzwords, although everyone seems to be moving into the meta. I actually can't wrap my head around the metaverse side of things yet, as well as even, you know, as much research and even little play projects we've done in crypto. There are still a lot of question marks that I have around some of these new, what I thought are fads, but people are making a shit ton of money. And so I'm more the fool in it, I think. But I do feel at the core of it, I see AI being offering solutions to many, many things, and there's going to be a lot of other solutions that come out of it. But NFTs, Meta, all of those things, everyone keeps telling me that's where the future's going. I haven't fully wrapped my mind around how to what it's going to do or what problem it's going to solve.
Yeah, I don't think many people have, to be honest. The problem that it's going to solve is like maybe a problem that hasn't been thought of quite yet.
Yeah.
And what were we talking about earlier, Michael? Shaving the hairs off crystals to make them go faster. Yeah. Didn't know how crystals had hair, but anyway, moving on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you so much, Daniel. It's been really amazing to talk to you, and you're obviously a wealth of information. Where can people find you? What's your preferred
Contact method?
Contact method?
What is my preferred contact method?
Mobile, I think.
Yeah. It is a mobile. I don't know if I want to give out that number readily.
No.
I have enough calls as it is. Look, I think I've got socials. Unfortunately, I don't have Danny here, my marketing person, that goes and gives all of those things for me.
We'll find them and add them.
Websites and email addresses, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And move up is moveupinternet.com.au?
That's not AU,
Yeah.
moveupinternet.com.
Not AU, just .com.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks so much again. And yeah, we really love talking to you.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome,
No
Daniel.
worries, and
Thanks very much.
congratulations on being the first guest for our season.
Yes.
Well done. Season 3.
Thanks, guys.